everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com filling in for Adam Pacini once again because he's currently busy helping pack up the office and helping everyone prepare to work from home. That's right, this will be the last graded for a while shot inside of the Cultaholic office. But don't worry, because we have enough equipment to share out amongst all of our presenters and editors, and that means that we can continue to do videos from the comfort of our own homes. Oh, it's gonna be weird, but hopefully the videos will look and feel pretty much the same. And luckily, I live with one of our editors, Owens, so if I just walk out of my bedroom door, turn left, and I can just go, Owen, mate, time to do an edit, friend, and then he'll come out and we are going to be sick of each other by the end of this. But we do have yesterday's Monday Night Raw to talk about, and how good / how weird was Raw? There's only one way to find out, and that is by assigning each individual segment a lovely individual grade. That's right, it's time for Monday Night Raw Graded. This week's Raw is, of course, airing from the Performance Center, which means that there's no audience, it's just essential personnel only, like SmackDown was on Friday. And on Friday, we had Triple H on commentary, who just made the show 10 times more entertaining than it had any right to be. So on Raw this week, we didn't have Triple H. We had Lawler, Saxton, and Tom Phillips. Just wanted Hunter there, making a joke out of everything. The three commentators are stood in the ring to open the show, and they welcome us and they explain the circumstances and everything. And then Lawler, like a robot, goes, "Guys, Austin's here. It's 3/16 day. It's March 16th." Which seemed a little bit tone deaf. He's in front of nobody, and he's so hyped because Steve Austin's here. It was odd. But before long, the three commentators are cut off by the entrance music of Edge, and here he comes to cut a big promo to properly start the show. Now, we recently saw Randy Orton recap his history with Edge, going all the way back to the day that he first met him when he was taken along by his dad, Cowboy Bob Orton, to a WWE live event. Edge recaps it from his point of view now and does so really well. He's still very, very good on the microphone. He also mentions, and I really enjoyed this detail, he mentions how they were both made into men by the same man, that being Mick Foley, because both guys had a really intense hardcore match with Mick Foley. Orton's was the one where he got slammed and had about 1 million thumbtacks in his back. Edge's was the one where he speared Foley and went face first into a flaming table off the apron. Both really, really good matches, and both excellent examples of Foley really helping to legitimize up-and-coming single stars, like he did with both Orton and Edge, and arguably Triple H as well at the 2000 Royal Rumble. And Edge says, "You know what, Randy, you are one of the best to ever do it, but you're an entitled brat, and you had all of that handed to you on a silver platter." Edge says, by contrast, he didn't. He was raised by a single mother, he had to really work and fight for everything that he got, and he did indeed achieve all of his dreams. And the fact that he did so and that he worked for everything and truly earned it makes Orton jealous. He claims that when Beth Phoenix rocked up on Raw recently to give a medical update on Edge, she was going to say that he was going to retire because she didn't feel like Edge should have to give his own retirement speech twice in one career. But then obviously Orton cut her off, and that dragged Edge out of a hole. Just like Edge dragged Randy out of a hole when he was in a dark period in his life, Orton has dragged Edge out of a hole, a very different type of hole. He's dragged him back into active competition, and he's got that spark, that fire about him once again. A really good point in the middle of a really good promo. So Edge challenges Orton to a last man standing match at WrestleMania and says that once he's through with him, Orton won't get back up again. This gets an A grade. What a promo from Edge. Really dark and ominous, and he adapted really well to the lack of a crowd too. It felt more like a soliloquy, more like a speech, and it was really awesome. I can't think of many better guys than Edge in this sort of situation, and he totally proved it as well. And I believe on Twitter as well, Beth Phoenix said that with travel issues and everything, Edge had to drive for 17 hours just to make this show, just to cut a promo in the opening segment, and man, did he make the absolute most of it. Next up, just to kind of relieve a bit of the tension that Edge had brought to Raw, Becky Lynch shows up in a big personalised truck, and she gets out the truck and she says to some people on the side of the road, "Have you seen me truck?" And then she heads off into the... That accent was so appalling. What I will say is that if they're trying to feed into this whole egotistical edge that Becky has developed to her babyface character, then this was probably a good move, because this really wasn't the time, Becky, to show off your big personalised truck. No grade for that, it was too short, but Becky would appear later on in the show. Next up, we just get a replay of the entire Men's Royal Rumble from this year's Royal Rumble show. So that takes up like a good hour and a bit of Raw. I guess it gets an A grade. I liked it. That's what I would have given it at the time, an A, because some people were misused, like Matt Riddle and some of the early guys who were eliminated by Lesnar. But then the whole thing with Drew eliminating Lesnar and then Drew going on to win and Edge's return, there's too much good stuff in that match to not give it an A. So that gets an A grade, but does it count? Because it's from a few months ago. I don't know. Back to the Performance Center now, and Jerry Lawler is in the ring waiting to kick off the contract signing between The Undertaker and AJ Styles. And here comes Undertaker, the music hits, and he just doesn't waste any time. He walks straight down the ramp. He's even got a little beanie on. It's almost like American Badass Undertaker's back, or at least it's like Dead Man Undertaker cosplaying as American Badass Undertaker and not really fully committing to it either, Mark. Taker gets in the ring and looks at the contract signing table and just starts trashing it. He throws the table over, Lawler gets out of the ring, he's like, I don't want any part of this. Undertaker just starts throwing chairs around, and then we go to commercial. So we end that little segment of Raw with Undertaker just to complete silence, just trashing pieces of inanimate furniture. It's weird, it's like a performance piece or something. When we get back from commercial, Undertaker is just pacing in the ring waiting for AJ Styles to arrive, and because he looks a bit like American Badass era Undertaker, I'm getting flashbacks to the year 2000 when I was a little kid and was just becoming a wrestling fan for the first time, and Undertaker would just dominate and destroy people like Kurt Angle, despite Angle being WWF champion at the time. I'm getting flashbacks to that. I don't like the American Badass in hindsight. Kurt Angle deserved better. Lawler on commentary explains that Taker was furious and trashed the whole table and chairs and everything because there was no contract on the table when he arrived, and that's why he was so annoyed. Back to the ring, Undertaker is still waiting for AJ Styles. AJ's music plays once, nothing. Plays twice, nothing. And then AJ appears on the Tron, flanked by Gallows and Anderson. What a coward. Boo! AJ says, Undertaker, why do you keep coming back around WrestleMania time? You don't see Michael Jordan interjecting himself into the NBA Finals. You don't see Peyton Manning interjecting himself into the Super Bowl. He also mentioned Brett Favre, but because Sam's a Green Bay Packers fan, I'd just like to say that I think Brett Favre's wildly overrated. Cheers, Sam, mate. Hope you see this. AJ says, of course I know why. It's all Michelle McCool's fault. All Money Michelle, they call her, which I do like. That was pretty funny. But AJ says he has no sympathy for Taker, even though he drags his broken body back to the ring and injures himself every single time. AJ says, I have no sympathy for you because you couldn't keep your nose out of my business. He then says he'll do everyone a favor at WrestleMania when he ensures that The Undertaker rests in peace, and he does the thing, and oh, it's going to be intense. There's going to be no one there to see it. I still can't get my head around this whole WrestleMania at the Performance Center thing. It's really weird. Styles has the contract, he signs it, he gives it to Gallows and Anderson and says, do me a favor, take that to the ring and give it to The Undertaker. And obviously, Gallows and Anderson are like, no, we don't want to, and AJ basically orders them to, and you know they're going to get beaten up. The pair head down the ramp, they leave the contract on the apron, they back away, The Undertaker looks really annoyed, the lights go down, and you've done it now, you've gone and made a big mistake. You've gone and made a big mistake, because the gong and the lights, oh, Jack, you comedy legend. The lights come back up, Undertaker is behind them, they turn around, and he just beats them up. He just beats them down with ease, even though it's two of them, and they're the greatest tag team in the world, but of course, it's The Undertaker. He beats them up with ease, he signs the contract as well, he stuffs it into Anderson's mouth, and he leaves. And that's it. Unfortunately, this only gets a B- grade. Styles' promo was good, but I couldn't give it a higher grade because, again, he's been totally punked out on the road to WrestleMania. I mean, let's recap. First of all, Taker cost Styles the two-egg trophy in Saudi Arabia, then he cost him that match against Aleister Black at Elimination Chamber, and now he's beaten up both of his henchmen. And what Styles got in return? He's stolen a couple of The Undertaker's taunts, he's attempted a few of his moves, he's done that pinfall on somebody. Doesn't seem like an even playing field to me. And just in case we thought that maybe AJ's not that affected by Taker beating down Gallows and Anderson with total ease, we do keep cutting back to him backstage going, oh, god damn it, moves are easy. So we know that Undertaker's in his head. Next up, the one and only new match on the show, not including, of course, the Men's Royal Rumble, but the only fresh match on the show that took place last night, Andrade versus Rey Mysterio. Obviously, Andrade is US champion, but this was a non-title match. We also have a guest commentator for this one. It's Asuka, who's just having a great time dancing to Mysterio's theme tune during his entrance, and doesn't make any sense for a non-Japanese speaker for the entire thing, but somehow it still remains oddly captivating. Rey starts off bright, but Zelina Vega's ringside, of course, and she snags his leg to turn the tide of the match in the favor of Andrade. It's worth mentioning, by the way, that on commentary, Asuka keeps on shouting Andrade's name. She seems to be a big fan of his, and she seems happier when he's winning the match and not so happy when Rey always in control. I think it's supposed to be really heelish and annoying to get us more behind Rey, but honestly, it was just nice to have a fan in attendance. Rey slips out of a Three Amigos attempt, hits the dropkick to the back, Andrade's over the middle rope, 619, Rey hits the splash, 1, 2, 3, and he beats the US champion in about 5 minutes or so, maybe just over 5 minutes. Very straightforward victory and a very straightforward clean loss for the champion. This gets a C+ grade, which seems harsh because the two are incredible wrestlers and have a really good chemistry with each other, but my problem isn't with the action itself, it's with the booking of Andrade losing in such an easy manner. Also, I guess they really wanted to get Asuka on the show, but her involvement in this segment didn't really make sense to me. I like it sometimes when storylines and feuds bleed into each other, but this one just seemed kind of shoehorned in. Asuka doesn't really have any connection to anybody in the ring, and it was weird to see her not do anything after the match because we're so used to, especially in WWE, guest commentary spots ending just one of two ways. For example, one, if the guest commentator is a heel, then they'll try and get involved somehow, whether it's physically or via a distraction, to try and make the babyface lose the match. And two, if the guest commentator is the babyface, then they'll get, someone will throw the heel into them, or the heel will throw someone into them behind the table. They'll get involved and get revenge in a cheeky way, whether it's like throwing a drink on the heel or something, and that'll usually lead to the heel losing the match, and the babyface will run away all, hee, I'm a babyface, I've just done something cheeky, that's you sorted out there, you big heel. That's the general gist of these guest commentator spots. I didn't really do it justice there, but you know what I mean. So it was weird to see Asuka just be annoyed that Andrade lost, and then the segment ended. Strange. Didn't affect the grade really. I was still disappointed that Andrade lost in such quick and decisive fashion. Next up, we get another promo, this time from the Raw Women's Champion, Becky Lynch, and she is still doing that kind of ultra confident, uber cocky thing while still being a babyface, which is a strange edge to her character because, she's always been really confident and really forthright ever since she turned on Charlotte and kickstarted her entire rise, but at the same time, this one's, she has had a bit more of an egomaniacal edge to her in the past few weeks, and if this leads to her getting just absolutely humbled by Shayna at WrestleMania, then I can totally understand the point. She is still a babyface though, and make no mistake about it, this was still a babyface promo. Becky says that Shayna's been taught her entire life that she can just bully her way to the top, and Becky says, you must look at me and be so angry because I am a loudmouth ginger Irish legend, in her own words, and says, I am proof that your whole life is a lie. Becky admits that the match at Elimination Chamber woke her up a bit. She realised, oh wow, Shayna's just ran through the entire women's division, but she says that she's still going to win at WrestleMania. I don't know if you are, Becky, but I admire your confidence. This gets a B+, good promo from Becky Lynch. She's always a good promo, really, isn't she? Nothing out of the ordinary, but I think B+ is a fair grade. Next up, we head backstage where Kevin Owens is cutting a promo on Seth Rollins. He accepts Rollins' challenge of a match anywhere, anytime, and he says he wants it at WrestleMania at the Performance Center. That still sounds so weird. Owens says that Rollins has had the advantage for months because he's had his goons with him. I'm not sure if that's true because recently Owens has just been absolutely taking the piss out of Rollins, but he says that Rollins has had the advantage because of Murphy and the AOP. But he says at the Performance Center, Owens has the home field advantage. He says this is where he began his WWE journey, this is where he went through some of the hardest experiences of his life, and this is where he was told by many people that he just wasn't a WWE guy and that he wouldn't make it. And he says that one of those people was indeed Seth Rollins. Which is weird because both guys are former Ring of Honor World Champions. They came from a similar sort of indie-rific background. So I wonder if that's true or not. And if it is true, then Seth, what are you playing at? That's Kevin Steen, a legend of Ring of Honor. I'm hoping it was. I'm sure it wasn't true. Although I seem to remember somewhere reading that it was true. I honestly don't know. I don't know. Maybe if someone knows, they can tell me in the comment section down below. Who knows? Anyway, Owens says that he's made so many memories in this place and he'll add one more when he beats Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. So, fair play, Kevin Owens. B+ for this promo, I think. Similar level to Becky's, really. It was very good from a wrestler who was always good on the mic, but it wasn't anything exceptional. It wasn't anything quite out of the ordinary. And finally, we close the show with Stone Cold Steve Austin. All through the night, we've been reminded of some of Austin's most iconic moments. You know, the Zamboni, the bedpan, beating up Vince in the hospital and everything. And now he's here, and Jerry Lawler just cannot contain himself because he's reminded us about 50 times tonight that it's March 16th. It's Steve Austin Day. Austin poses on the turnbuckles for some reason, don't know, calls for some beers, drinks them, takes a bump for some reason, not a full-on back bump, he just falls over in the middle of the ring, and then gets the mic and says he blew himself up during his entrance, and commentary laugh because blowing up means to get tired, but only people in the know understand what that means, and they laugh because they understand, and we don't. Austin hereby declares March 16th a national holiday. I would like to explain that the whole 316 joke doesn't really work for our calendar because we put the day first and then the month, so it's actually 16/3, but that's okay, that's fine, we understand, we understand the whole thing. So he says the 316 is now a national holiday, and if you like the sound of that, give me a hell yeah, and no one says anything, so he says it again, give me a hell yeah. And on commentary, Byron Saxton goes, hell yeah, in the most cheesy way, deliberately so, but the most cheesy way. Austin's like, what? Because Steve Austin. Byron's like, hell yeah, and Austin's like, thank you for your enthusiasm, Byron. And around about this point, I get the feeling that this promo is not going to go well for Byron Saxton, especially when Austin starts reading out things that the 316 day means. So it's a day when your boss works for you, it's a day when you can have beer instead of your morning coffee, all kinds of Steve Austin type things. And for every one, Byron holds up like a scorecard with an 8 on it, or a 6 or a 10, and Austin's like, bit of a harsh crowd there, Byron, but thank you, mate. And Austin's getting so annoyed, and I'm just like, Byron, what are you doing? He's grading the show. He's grading it. Oh no, I'm just as bad as him. Austin finishes his list of things with, it's a day when 4-letter words are always acceptable, and Byron only gives that a 5. Because Byron's squeaky clean, you know, he doesn't like cursing. Austin invites Byron into the ring to share a beer, and Byron has never watched wrestling before ever because he says yes. Austin, you know, smashes cans with Byron, that sounds dirty, smashes beer cans with Byron, they both down their drinks. Austin gives him a stunner, Byron sells it really well, it's probably like a dream come true for him, to be fair. And then Becky Lynch comes down, she brings a cooler of beers with her, they share some beers, Austin gives Byron another stunner, and that's how we end Raw. But it's weird because there's no crowd cheering them on, so it's kind of eerie in a way. In a way, I almost felt sorry for Byron because there was just nobody joining it. There was nobody conditioning us how to feel about this, and instead we're just watching these two supposed good guys bully an innocent commentator. No, it gets a B grade. It was harmless fun, but I know for a fact, right, let me tell you that as a child, I would have hated this. As a child, right, I was such a goody two-shoe. My favorite wrestler at the time was Triple H because I thought that Austin and Rock were rude and mean to him, and that's why I like Triple H. Obviously, I turned a blind eye to all the sledgehammer and the attempted vehicular homicide and all that sort of thing, but I thought that Austin and Rock were mean and were bullies to poor Triple H. That's why Triple H is my favorite wrestler of all time. So I know for a fact that I would have hated this. I'd have hated Austin bullying Byron in my mind, and I'd have just thought it was really sad. Now I can see that it was, you know, a fun way to end the show, and that Byron probably really enjoyed it. So it gets a B grade, but no more than that, because it was weird without a live crowd, and that did affect it, unfortunately. So what does this Raw get overall? It's a really weird one to grade, isn't it? Because really, we only had one fresh matchup, which was Andrade versus Ray, which only lasted about 5 minutes. So yeah, it's a really hard one to grade, but also a really hard one to penalize, just because you can understand the difficulties they had putting the show together. I'm gonna give it a B- on balance. I think if this was a fully realized Raw, a full one with more matches and the appearances from like Edge and Austin and Taker, then we'd probably be looking at a bit of a higher grade, you know what I mean? But I think that B- is probably fair just because it felt so thin. And I know that 3 hours is a long time to fill, especially under the circumstances, so I can't penalize it too harshly. B- seems fair to me, and I think the highlight was probably Edge's promo right at the very beginning. So that's it for this week's Monday Night Raw Graded. The next time you see a graded video, it's probably going to be shot from one of our houses, which is strange, but hopefully it doesn't affect the quality of the video too much. Thanks very much for sticking with us, and I hope you're all doing well out there. Yeah, let's just all stay positive and stick together. Thanks very much for watching, and let me know what you thought of Raw in the comments section down below.